ask you about this because you can almost, in a reverse way, flip back to the summer of 2009, which I know you covered, I covered. We were out at these town hall meetings covering Congress, and the reaction that Republicans were having to Democratic members, to Democratic senators. And I want to play something that we dug up for you. This is the reaction by then White House Press Secretary Robert Gibbs, and also we've put it up against the reaction from the current White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer talking about those people voicing their concerns.
Is it the White House contention that the anger that some members of Congress are experiencing at town hall meetings, especially over health care reform, is manufactured?
I think some of it is, yes. In fact, I think you've had groups today, the Conservatives for Patients' Rights, that have bragged about organizing and manufacturing that anger.
I think there's a hybrid there. I think some people are clearly upset, but there is a bit of professional protester manufactured base in there.
All right, so first point to make, that was a young Jake Tapper with far less gray hair. I should point that out. But Manu, you hear that sort of both parties. Is this out of the bipartisan talking point playbook to try to diminish the voices that they're hearing?
Yeah, and you know, that White House in 2009, the Obama White House, dismissed those concerns to their peril. They lost the House in 2010, and that's one thing that Democrats are warning Republicans about now, is that there is this energy right now on the left because healthcare is such a passionate issue. People feel so strongly about it, which makes it so difficult to get consensus, not just across the aisle, but within their own party. Now, that one thing that will be interesting to see is how much of those more moderate Republicans in both the House and the Senate, whether or not they are scared off by these very sharp-edged concerns. Remember, they can only lose 20 votes in the House in order to get something passed in the House if they don't get any Democratic support, and they can only lose 2 votes in the Senate. So that means that there is really no margin for error. And if more and more of these people come out and they voice their concerns, what does that mean for those more skittish members of the Republican House and the Senate? And if Donald Trump becomes less popular, will he be able to give any political cover to some of those more moderate members? So it's a very difficult issue, and you're seeing a replay from 2009 in a lot of ways.
It's fascinating. Okay, Doug, I want to get you and Abby real quick in on this. This Quinnipiac University poll that shows Donald Trump with an approval rating down to 38%. The big issue here is that he's at a net negative of 17 points. What's your takeaway?
My takeaway is his effectiveness is based on his popularity in Republican districts. As long as Republicans in congressional districts approve of him, Congress is going to work with President Trump. You're not going to hear a lot of attacks coming from Republicans. Republicans approve of Donald Trump over 80%. That's a better number than George Bush had at this point, moving into his administration. George W. Bush.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Abby, because clearly Donald Trump one could very easily argue that he is definitely playing to that base, that he's not necessarily trying to appease everyone and has come to a conclusion that perhaps President Obama could have, that he can't actually appease everybody.
Yeah, I mean, he's hewing very closely to what he said he was going to do in the campaign, and that was actually a message that at the time was considered incredibly polarizing. I mean, the other thing to consider with a lot of these poll numbers is that you have to put them in context. This, as a candidate, Donald Trump was historically unpopular. He went through virtually the entire campaign with upside-down approval ratings, and he still won. So it just tells you a little bit that sometimes what matters to voters in terms of what they want in the president and whether they want to vote for a particular person or vote for a particular party is not necessarily the same thing as this idea of favorability or unfavorability or approval or disapproval. I think we have to look a little deeper at some of these numbers and evaluate what people are seeing about whether they're giving Trump the benefit of the doubt that he's doing what he said he was going to do, especially around jobs, job creation, and issues like trade as well.
Abby, Manu, Doug, great insight. Thank you guys so much. You know, one paper is calling the Republicans who aren't showing up to town halls cowardly. I'm going to speak live with the columnist behind that. Plus, backlash after the Trump administration scraps protections